extra, read all about it. Get your copies while they last. Stop the presses.
And now for something completely different.
Are you ready for a little truth? Are we not entertained? Wisdom is the proper use of knowledge and experience. There are no safe spaces here. The truth shall make you free. It's showtime! So you want the truth, but can you handle the truth? Well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into. Now that's entertainment. Enlighten me a little. What you say is quite logical. And what did we learn? Prepare yourself for a little sensory overload. I came here for the truth. 7 years ago. Stand by the roll show intro. Roll show intro in 3, 2, 1, go.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Hello, America, family, friends, and listeners all around the planet we call Earth. This is the Craig L. Hayes Show, and I am Craig L. Hayes, talking to you on a beautiful October 19th, 2024. And here, looking outside the window of my house, there is snow on the ground. The first snow of the season, of hopefully many, many snows, to get more water under the water table. Anyway, that's not the topic of the day. Snow, water tables, etc. is not the topic of the day. The topic of the day is going to be called fascism. Ooh, fascism. Yeah, we should be scared of it, actually. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I was listening to the Democrat Party idiot and moron known as Kamala Harris, telling the world, telling everybody out there how dangerous Trump is because he'll be a fascist and he'll do all these horrible things. And she started naming things. And let's go through the things that she was talking about and see just what's going to happen. But remember, she says these things knowing that he's already been in office for 4 years and has never done a single thing that she says he's going to do, but yet continues to say these things. Because she's a liar, pathological, sociopathic liar, compulsive. Tim Walz, her running mate, is just as bad. Joe Biden is a lying idiot. It is the Democrat Party. That's what they do. They lie, and they lie again. And they accuse other people of doing exactly what they are doing. That's how the Democrat Party works. Just so we know, we'll get that out of the way. We're going to re-hit it at the end of this little discussion a little bit more, but we're going to talk about that. So, what did she say is going to happen? You know, you hear from all these corporate medias types like CNN and all of them that, yep, Trump is going to take and imprison everybody who doesn't agree with him. He's going to take and put people who are gay in prison camps. He's going to do all these things, and he's going to go after people who are his political opponents, literally. So you're saying that the man, Donald Trump, if he becomes president again, who never did any of these things, becomes president again, he's going to take and go after all these people and his political opponents using the Department of Justice. That's what he's going to do. You mean the Department of Justice being used by Biden and Harris to prosecute and persecute their political opponent, Donald Trump, who has 91 charges against him, supposedly, that, so he's so dangerous and so terrible that, they've unleashed every government agency they can on him to stop him because he's so dangerous that we have to do this, because if he gets in, this is what he's going to do. See, that's the logic right there. That's how these people think. They're sick. They're liars. And they'll destroy anybody they can who gets in their way. That is what's called being a Democrat. And everybody who's out there says, no, Democrats aren't like that. Yeah, well, they are. You are. And that's what it is. If it hurts your feelings and hurts your sense of right, wrong, morality, whatever, I really don't care. Today's not a day for me to put up with too much of anything from the Democrat Party and from Democrats who are nothing more than sheep and stupid. So let's move on down the line here. So who used the lies, the false innuendos, and the government against the citizenry? And we're going to talk, we'll just bounce around a couple little subject matters here. And some of this is going to be used back going to COVID. How many businesses, if Donald Trump was so bad, how many businesses did Donald Trump close during the COVID, so-called COVID emergency? Well, I can see the only thing he could really have damaged anything is he stopped flights coming in from China, knowing that there was a virus over there and it was going to make its way here. But he didn't shut down any businesses. He didn't close anything. Who did? Oh, that's right. Joe Biden and his Democrats and the governors and stuff. That's what they did. They're the ones who were acting again as a fascist. Some other things. Who used government to force people to take an experimental vaccine and then kicked people out of government jobs, such as the military, if they refused to take it because they knew it wasn't a tested vaccine and didn't want to be subject to the Department of Health's experiment on the American people. Oh, that was Joe Biden. And the Democrats acting as fascists. Donald Trump never did that. Well, there's another thing. We keep finding things that they keep on doing. Anybody who took and tried to put anything out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, denouncing the vaccines, saying that there's problems with this, saying anything contrary to what Fauci and Biden were saying, was silenced on those platforms, kicked off of them. And it'd be one thing if the owners of these businesses just sit there and said, these people are just putting out crap we don't want to listen to and we don't think it's right and we're going to do it. Well, they probably would have done that eventually on their own to a certain degree, but have to remember this. The government, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, told the chairmen of Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, to knock people off and to regulate content and to censor people for having an opposite opinion or voicing their opinion against the government. That's called fascism. Did Donald Trump do that? No, that was once again, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their government agencies using the FBI's, the Justice Department, everybody else to put pressure on these companies to do this. That's government censorship. Government censorship of free speech is a violation of the First Amendment, and only a fascist or a dictator would do it. Donald Trump didn't do that. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. So once again, who's the fascist? These are simple questions. I'm trying to make them simple so even Democrats can understand some of this stuff. Please pay attention. But here's something I want to make sure we understand how things operate within the government, especially on people who don't agree with you. How false, and I wrote this down, how false or damaging a narrative is, you'll find those that promote the lie will vociferously defame, marginalize, persecute, prosecute, and censor those who will not believe and oppose the lie. That is the bottom line to censorship. That is bottom line censorship, and that is exactly what they did. And only dictators, tyrants, fascists, Marxist, communists would do that. Donald Trump never did that. Only Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's administration did that. But they keep saying Donald Trump is the fascist. He'll be a fascist. So, here's another thing. Religious freedoms. I'm going to keep using COVID because COVID was the best example of what a tyrannical fascist government would do to the citizens. What administration closed houses of worship in violation of the First Amendment and trying to say, well, it was a health crisis. People going to church and worshiping could spread this horrible virus, this cold virus, this flu virus that 99% of the people recovered from when they got it. We have to stop that. But, Walmart can stay open, Home Depot, Lowe's, all those places can stay open. They can have hundreds and hundreds of people wandering around in there by each other, passing each other. Grocery stores can stay open. All these things can stay open. That's perfectly fine. But, your mom and pop store over there that sells, a couple things on the shelf and one person comes in here, one person there, you have to close your doors because you can make people infected. See, that's what fascists do. That's what tyrants do. That's what dictators do. That's what Joe Biden, Kamala Harris did. But yet Donald Trump will be the fascist. Okay. Once again, one more thing that keeps on pointing that Donald Trump really hasn't done a thing to warrant this, but he's always called these things. Typical Democrats. Typical Democrats. We'll go with property rights, income rights, stuff like that. How many people, because of government actions, lost their businesses, lost their income, lost their houses, cars, boats, planes, trains, automobiles, whatever, because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris violating the Fifth Amendment. Part of the Fifth Amendment says the government can't seize property or violate your property rights without just compensation. How many of these people got compensated for losing their houses, their cars, businesses, their income? I was fortunate enough not to lose my house or car during that time, but I lost a year and a half of work, a year and a half of contributions into a pension fund, a year and a half into an annuity fund that wasn't contributed into. That was stolen by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and in direct violation of the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment. And I wasn't compensated, nor was anybody else, unless you were some big business and got all these, PPP, whatever loans. And most of that was done with abuse anyway. Most of the people who did that abused that to death and got billions of dollars that they weren't entitled to. But why would you need to take out a loan when the government is the one that's forcing you to go broke and not compensating you for forcing you to go broke. See, once again, this is what tyrants do. This is what dictators do. This is what fascists do. Donald Trump never did any of this stuff. Only Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Democrat governors did these things. But Donald Trump will be the fascist. Oh, here's another good one. Do you have the right to free speech? Is there a First Amendment even anymore? Do you have a right to free speech? Do you have a right to stand on the sidewalk out in front of an abortion clinic with a sign that says, please don't kill the children, and pray for the people going in there not to do that? Well, in America, under a constitutional system, in a republic, absolutely. But under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, fascists, both of them, tyrants and dictators, people are getting arrested and sent to jail for doing just that, exercising their rights because someone decided to use the Justice Department is being used to arrest people for doing that, calling it you're blocking people from going into an abortion clinic. Well, the abortion clinic's across the parking lot. I'm standing on the sidewalk, 100 feet from these people, but I'm blocking them, and I'm going to go to jail for having my sign. See, only a fascist dictator tyrant would apply or ask the Justice Department to apply the law that way. In other words, a Joe Biden, a Kamala Harris, who is the most baby bloodthirsty candidate for president we've ever had, who wants to just basically loves the idea, because I think she's either going to be a believer in Moloch or Baal and wants blood sacrifice from children, to appease those gods. She is evil, and she is the most bloodthirsty one or presidential candidate we have ever had. Be careful what we get, because there's always consequences to elections, and as we saw in 2020, to stolen elections. So, just remember a very simple thing. I even just jotted down a note on that thing. Fascists will always point to other people and tell you, see that person over there? They are a fascist. They will take and violate your rights. They will violate the law. They will do everything they can to prosecute and persecute you for your beliefs. The problem is, while they're pointing at you, they're doing exactly that. They want you to be considered the threat while they're actually committing the crime and violating your rights. This is the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris we have today. This is the Democrat Party. In 2.5 weeks, we've got to make a choice. And what's that choice going to be? Are we going to stand for freedom and liberty? Or are we going to continue down the road of Biden-Harris into tyranny, fascism, Marxism, and the destruction of the Bill of Rights, our constitutional system, and the end of the republic? You have a choice to make. Choose wisely. Do not allow these evil people to get into power. Well, that's pretty much this episode of the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am Craig L. Hayes, and I'll be back soon with another episode of the show called
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.